I would say maybe 8 out of 10.
I would say like a 5.
I would say like a 3 or a 4, not very tech savvy.
Well, I'm in the lowest half. Maybe a 4. I guess I'm pretty permissive. You know, I don't kind of go around with a whip or anything because I think, you know, students should be mature enough to figure that out for themselves.
An outright ban telling students to put away, don't have your phone out, otherwise I'll confiscate it or something. It sounds kind of dictatorial to me. It sounds like I'm not treating them like adults, and students here are adults, not high school. So it seems kind of weird to tell a student you're not allowed to have technology in the classroom. Very few times in our history has completely outlawing something has ever stopped it. It doesn't. I just, if it's becoming an issue where they're not focusing or they're causing others not to focus, I would ask them to put it away, but I don't have any formal bans or policies.
I personally am always the last one to adopt some new technology.
I would like to use more technology, like apps, like let students use their phones in class to gain more knowledge, because I realize that students have that as like a finger now. It's not just a thing that they bring to class, like it's actually attached to them somehow. So I'd like to use different apps and not be afraid to use them and worry that students are on Facebook or something else.
You and I having a conversation and I'm reading a book. That's rude while we're talking. I think it's just as rude, not only in the classroom, but it's in general when you're actually trying to communicate and somebody else is, you know, spending half their time glancing at a screen.
When students are texting their friends or doing whatever they do with their phones and trying to hide it, it's pretty obvious. They have it down on their lap and they're looking down doing something. It's clear. I mean, if you're doing something, hold it up, right? Show them, you know, it's not like I don't notice that they're not paying attention.
A couple of weeks ago, we showed a film about the dangers of multitasking. And I looked at the class, and I would say a third of the class were multitasking while they're watching this film.
We got Google Forms. We got you can use your phone to have polls. There's various websites to do such things. I can schedule review sessions with my students on Doodle or some various websites, which is a lot better than trying to have a hand raised who can meet at 4 p.m. So, you know, that doesn't work very well. Not everyone participates, not everyone's active.
Through some Google apps, we were able to push out PDF files to every student so that we had kind of the maximum use of information for students. And it was a great way for me to create and customize my own content, but still be able to teach the musical skills that they needed to know.
In the old days, I could have found that someplace, and then I would have had to bring in all this equipment and put it on a projector, a 16 millimeter projector or a 35 millimeter or something. And that would almost not be worth it.
Like you're able to project 3D and show students things in a 3D. So that's super positive that you can now show students things, or even like you don't have to have a cadaver, you could show a body and have different things. Like we're not quite there yet here at Scholastica, but it would be sweet to show students what I had to try to imagine in my head. And I don't know what students are imagining in their head, so if they're imagining it wrong, then they're learning it wrong, which is a bummer.
It's a distraction. It's a distraction. They're not focusing on ideally what they should be focusing on, which is hopefully something interesting that I'm talking about.
We're always like constantly attached to it. We don't just like go out in nature and like take a map and try to figure out how to get somewhere. So I think directions and knowing how to get from A to B is kind of losing, and the problem solving is kind of going away, because we can just instantly say like, what is the answer to this question. We don't have to like wonder about it. We can just use Google.
If we're not careful, we can be lazy teachers and lazy thinkers and let the technology, again, like Fahrenheit, just put the kids in the room and then turn on the TV. I mean, in a teaching situation, that can be dangerous, where you get too wrapped up in the technology.
For professors, PowerPoint can be used as a crutch. We don't like to alter our slides. We don't like to move things around. We have a lecture. We haven't changed it in 15 years. Like, we don't have to draw on the board anymore. We don't have to actually interact with the students. We just have to scroll through a PowerPoint presentation, and that's considered to be lecturing now. So it's a negative for the students in the classroom, but it can be a negative for us. Technology should help our lectures, but it shouldn't replace our lectures, at least in my opinion.
I still think face-to-face communication and conversation is the best.
I think it depends how you use it. People always talk about screen time like it's one single thing. Like, my kid can only have 1 hour of screen time, but now like their games and their books are on the screen. So you have to consider that if they're learning on a screen, is that actual screen time? And are you going to think of it as negative?
I think realistically, particularly with the prevalence of technology nowadays, you really can't fight it. Telling students, if I see your phone out, I'm going to confiscate it, that's really dumb. I don't think that would work. I don't know what I would do with 25 iPhones. A big stack on my desk. Whether it outweighs it or not, I think is almost, it's going to happen. And so if it's going to happen, you might as well try to do it in the right direction.